Hi everyone, this is Rajkumar. Previous sessions we learned how to create AWS account and whatever account which we have created with the AWS is called root account. Credential which we use to create AWS account called root user. Consider if we have organization, we can't give this root credentials to everyone to access a AWS account, right? And also like we may have different account for different purpose. One could be for dev account, that is for development purpose. One can be a QA account for testing purpose, and one can be a production account where we will deploy everything into production after testing and it will be given to customer. Similarly, if you see multiple resources in AWS can be accessed by different services, right? The service also needs to communicate or needs to authenticate with AWS. For that also we can't use root credentials to be configured in applications or services, right? Then how can we achieve this? This is what we are going to see in this video. So basically, as a physical user, how I will I should not use a root user credentials and how I can access a AWS resource, and similarly as application or service how I can access the AWS resources. That is what we are going to discuss in this session. First of all, we'll understand how physical user can access AWS resource without a root user credential. For that we need to understand what is IAM identity center. These are all the steps which we are going to follow to understand this one. So first we are going to create account. We already have a root account. Apart from that, we are going to create a two more account, dev account and QA account. Dev could be for developer usage, QA account for testing purpose. Okay, so we are going to create a two different account in AWS. Next, confirm identity source. It is nothing but like where I'm going to store my users information. Is it in AWS? Is it somewhere else? That we are going to confirm. Then immediately the source, if I confirm, right, in the source I am going to create a users. How many users I want to create? I can create. That's the third step. And fourth step would be like I'm just going to group those users. Example, if I have 10 users, in that 5 users can be a developer, 5 can be a tester. So I'm going to create a two different group, and one group for developer and one for tester. And the fifth one it will be like adding users into group. So it is like whatever the users which I created in third step, right, which I am going to map it into different groups. Sixth step is create permission sets. So we are going to create a permissions. This permissions will define us, okay, this particular user or group will have access to these AWS resource. What level of access the particular user or group has, right, that permissions will be defined in the permission set. Okay, and finally what are we going to do? We are going to map this groups permission sets along with the account whatever we have created. With these steps, we will understand how physical users get access to AWS resource using IAM Identity Center. Demonstrate this one. This is my root account which we have created in the previous session. If you want to follow the steps which mentioned here, the first step is create account. How we can create account? If you want to create account, first of all we need to go to AWS organization. If I go to AWS organization, there I already created two different account. One is dev account and other one is QA account. The same thing, right? Like if you see other than root account, I have created dev and QA account in AWS. We will see that. So for that, we need to click on add an AWS account. There are two options. One is create AWS account. Other one is invite a existing AWS account. If you are already having AWS account and we are going to bring it into this AWS organization, this is that option, invite an AWS account. But for us, like we are going to create a new AWS account. The thumb rule of creating a AWS account, right? Like you need to have a unique email address. If you are having a unique email address and which is not registered anywhere in AWS globally, right, then you can use that email address to create AWS account. If you're already configured your email address somewhere, you can't use that. Okay, this is where like you need to give the account name, then the email address you need to pass, and as I already told, this is a unique email address you need to give. Then if you click on the create AWS account, it will create you AWS account. I have already created dev and QA account. This is the next step. Confirm identity source. For this, we need to go to identity center. How to go to identity centers? You need to search it here. I click on the IAM Identity Center, it will open here. So if you scroll down, you can see this option, confirm your identity source. Here you need to click and see what identity source is configured. As I already told, identity source is nothing but where I'm going to keep my user information. That is what, right? If you see here that identity source it mentioned as identity center directory, meaning I'm going to store this user information in AWS itself. Okay, if I don't want to do that, I can change that. Okay, for that they are giving this option, change identity source. There are three options. One is you can directly store it in AWS and you can maintain there, or if you already have one in Microsoft AD, right? But it is AWS managed Microsoft AD. If you want to use that, you can use it. Okay, that is for Active Directory. And third one would be external identity provider. If you select second one, right, you need to give next. You need to mention where the existing directory present. You need to mention that. And third one is external identity provider. It is nothing but if you already have anywhere maintaining the user details other than Active Directory, right? Like Agda or Facebook, Google, something like if you are maintaining that, then you can point it to here the external identity provider information. But for this demo, I'm going to use identity center directory, meaning I'm going to maintain my user information in AWS itself. Okay, so if you see here, right, this is AWS access portal URL. This is the URL which we need to use it for login purpose. Whatever users which we are creating, no, the users needs to log in to the account whatever we are linking, right? So for that we need to use this AWS access portal URL. Okay, so the next step, the second step is done. The third step is creating a user. Creating users, yeah, in IAM identity center itself, if you click on this users icon, you can see what are all users available, and if you want to create new users, you can click on add users, so that like you can create new users. I already created two users. One is dev user, other one is test user. As I already told when we create a AWS account, right? Similarly, AWS user also you need to have a unique email address to create a AWS user. If I click on add user, so this is the page. So first you need to mention the username, then you need to mention a unique email address. Finally, what is the first name and last name you need to mention. Apart from that, like these are all the optional information. If you want to mention like contact level information, job related information, address, preference, and additional attributes, whatever if you want to mention, you can keep it here. Okay, we know what is the username because like you are going to mention this in username, but what will be your password? There are two options AWS is giving. One is we can select first one. So what it will do, it will actually send the email invitation to the mail id whatever we are going to feed in here. Okay, for the particular mail id it will send the invitation. So if you click on this invitation, it will allow you to create a password for this particular user. Okay, if you are not choosing this option, then there is another option also there. You can use this option here. What will do, after creating this user, it will show you a pop-up. The password in the pop-up, you will have one time password. You can take that one time password and log in first time. It will ask you to change the password. You need to change it. Okay, so there are two options as I already mentioned. Since I already created that, I have taken some screenshot. I will show that. If you see here, uh, this is the invitation. I got it. I used first option, so I got this invitation. So I accept this invitation. So it will navigate into this page where I need to give the password I have given and stored it. Okay, this is how I created a user. So I already told I have created two account, and now I have created two users. The next step is create group. Then after user, if you click on this group option, this is the page where we can create a group. I'm creating a group. The group name would be developers. This is the first group I'm creating. I'm just creating a group. Okay, and then next group is testers. Just a description. I'm not adding any user to this group. I'm just created a group. If you want to see one of them, right, there is no users in the group. Okay, then this step also complete. Create group is complete. Now I am going to add users into group. We'll see that we have created a group. Right now I'm now in developers group. I'm going to add one user into the group. I'm going to add AWS dev user into developer group. I add it. Then I'm going to add test user into tester group. Add it. Like how many users you want to add into the group, yeah, you can add. And later point, if you're creating a new user, you want to add it directly, that is also possible. Okay, so now I have created accounts I chosen my identity source, then I have created user, created group, I mapped groups and users together. Now sixth step is I'm going to create a permission set. So for that, if you see here, right, there is an option called permission set. We need to click that. Sure, right? I am going to create two permission set. Okay. So first permission set is for developer and other permission set for tester. So what I'm going to do is developer will create a S3 bucket. Okay, then tester can only view the S3 bucket whatever created by developer. This is what I'm going to do. So to understand what is S3, S3 is nothing but a folder explorer whatever we currently have it in any system, right? That is how it will be. So we are if you want to create multiple folders and inside folder if you want to create multiple files, yeah, that's possible. Bucket is the one S3 resource, and where inside like you can have multiple folders and inside folders you can have file. Okay, so I'm going to create a first permission set. Okay, create a permission set. So there are multiple options. One is the predefined options. If I want to use, I can use. So predefined option is like I can use it for administrative access, billing, database administrator. So AWS already have a some permission set. We can use that. Okay, but I don't. My requirement is specific, right? I'm going to use it only for S3. So this may not be valid for me. So I am going to go with custom permission set. Clicking on next. So here also AWS managed policies there, customer managed policies there, inline policy, permission boundaries there. So if I select AWS managed policy, this is again similar to the predefined one what we have now, but this is specific to resource. If I select for S3, yeah, S3 also I will have. I can see here. If you see here, no, it shows that it's a full access. If I select this one, then I'm able to access the entire operations whatever I want to do in the S3 I can do. Okay, but I don't need this. Specifically my requirement is specific to create a bucket, delete a bucket, and list whatever bucket is available. This is what a developer going to do. Test is only going to list whatever the bucket is available. They need to view it. Okay, I don't need anything else. So I'm not going to use this predefined AWS managed policy. Then what else I can use is like there is one more option is called inline policy. This I'm going to use it. Okay, so if I go to use S3, selecting S3, there are multiple options. First of all, what I need to do, I going to create a bucket. For that I need, okay, correct. So I'm adding that create bucket. Then what else I need? I need to delete a bucket. I'm adding that. So these are all actions can be allowed for S3 resource. Okay, that is why. So that is why if you see S3 create bucket, S3 delete bucket kind of that. No, list bucket. List all my buckets. Also required for to list the buckets. And if I am creating, I need put encryption configuration. This is required. And finally, if I want to get something, get object, I will add. Okay, so I have added everything. Okay, whatever it's required, I added everything. Now I'm going to save this. The name of this one I'm going to keep it as S3 list delete create bucket. Session duration is 1 hour. That is I'm going to keep it with the default one. Giving next. So first permission set is created. This is for developer, right? I'm going to create a one more permission sets for testers. Same thing. I'm going with custom defined. Next, going directly to inline policy. S3 list bucket. List all my bucket. S3 list. Q next 3 bucket. So giving next create. So there are two permission sets I created now. Okay, now everything is done. Create account, identity source confirmation, create user, creating group, add users into group, permissions. It is done. Now I need to map everything. Before doing it, we will just log in as a dev user and see what is happening or what is coming in AWS. Okay, so I'm going into Incoin window. As I already told, we have one URL, right? This is the URL we are going to use it. I'm going to open or log in as a dev user. Give a next. Sign in. If you see now, if you see now, like I'm not seeing anything, right? Like it's a blank page, but I open here as a dev user because I have created a user is available. I'm able to log in user, but the user doesn't have any permission. How the user will get permission? I'm going to add a permission into the particular group where user is available. Okay, and it is not mapped to any of the account. We are not seeing any account here, right? That is what we are going to do now. We'll see how to do that. Now I'm going to AWS account. Here I'm going to dev account, right? I'm clicking on dev account and assign users or group. For this dev account, I'm adding developer. Okay, I'm adding developer and click next and giving the permission. What permissions I'm going to give? S3 list delete bucket permission and click next and submit. Just configuring. Configuration done. I'm refreshing. Now I'm seeing this dev account available here, right? So this particular dev user can access this dev account. If I click on this, if you see here, this is actually a dev user. If I click on S3, I am able to create a bucket and other thing because the particular access which we have given to dev user through the group, right? Okay. Next, we are going to do this for text account also. How it is reacting, we'll see. Okay. So what I have done, this QA account also I am giving access to developer with this permission set. Okay. And the QA account also we need to test it, right? For that I am giving access to testers also. Say in users or group, selecting testers. Next, S3 list, submit. I can open QA account and see how the configuration is. So we have access to both developer and tester. Developer have access to entire thing. For S3 listing, deleting, creating a bucket, but testers will have access to only S3 list. You will check this one in developer account. Now I'm refreshing again. Now if you see dev user have access to dev account as well as QA account, both, right? If I want to select QA account alone, I can select. Now in QA account, see like I'm opening S3. We already have this. I'm deleting since we already given a permission to developer, right? We are already given permission to delete a bucket and for developer it is allowing to delete. I am creating a bucket. Bucket name would be AWS test dev bucket. Okay, I'm creating. Okay, bucket name should be unique, which means that it is globally unique. It should be globally unique. Nowhere it should present. So keeping buckets test just. So it is allowing to create and I'm able to see this bucket here, right? So it's allowing to list the buckets. Now I'm signing out. I'm going to log in as a test user. Now I logged in as a test user. I have access to only QA account because I logged in as test user. Click on this S3 list. Now I'm able to log into my QA account as a test user. If I click on S3, I'm able to see the buckets which is created by developer, right? Here it's listing. Like if I want to delete that, yeah, it may not be possible. See, I'm clicking and deleting this. You see, I'm giving that name and try to tell it. It's giving you don't have access permission in AWS. Okay, so the permissions whatever we have assigned to testers, it's working fine. Permissions whatever we assign to developers also working fine. This is how we can create a user in AWS will help the users to access all the AWS resources. Hope we understood how IAM Identity Center is working. So to summarize that, what we have done, we have created an account, QA and dev account we have created. Then we have confirmed the identity source whatever we are going to use. Okay, we maintain every user's information in AWS itself. Then we have created users, then we have created groups, we map these users into group, then finally we created a permission and map permissions account and group together. Now we are able to access AWS resource as a physical user. Till now we learn how physical users can access the AWS resource. Now we are going to learn how an application can access AWS resource. That can be achieved by two way. One is with IAM user and other one is IAM role. First we will see what is IAM user. With IAM users also we are doing some step by step approach to make the application to access the AWS resource. The first step is creating a user. It is kind of like how we have created a user there, and similarly in IAM user we will create a user. Then we will create a policy. It is nothing but a permission sets how we have kept it in IAM identity centers, right? Same way we will create a policy here. We will create a group. Then fourth step is mapping users and policies into group. And finally we will create a access keys. I will demonstrate the same. To understand IAM user, we need to go to IAM page. IAM is nothing but identity access management. Okay, if I'm clicking that, this is the IAM page. So as I already told, first we can create a users. I click on user, then if I click create user, it is currently asking me to give a username. I'm just giving some application name. Consider application 1. So this provide user access to AWS management console. This is optional. Basically application doesn't need this AWS console access, right? AWS console is nothing but this one, this page access, this AWS page access. This is basically required for one physical user, right? That can be achieved through IAM identity center. That is what we have learned previously, right? Now we need access for application. So I'm just giving a username as application 1 and clicking on next. So there are three options, the permission options has given by AWS. One is add users to group. So this option is nothing but like I'm adding a users to group, and group will have a permission. Okay, and second option is like copy permissions. If the one user have a certain permission, right? If I can copy the permission from the particular user. And third option is directly attaching the permission to the user. The recommended one is add users to group. So click next. Now IAM user is created. If you see application 1, the IAM user is created. The next step is creating a policy, right? So if I click on policy, as we already seen the permission set example, right? This is similar. Okay, this is called as a managed policy, AWS managed policy. If you want to select one, like you can select. Example, if I give S3, the same thing like we have seen Amazon S3 full access, right? The same thing we can see here also. If I need a custom one, how I have chosen inline policy there, right? Similarly, if I want to create my own policy, then I need to click on create policy. Here there are two options. One is visual and another one is JSON. I'm going with JSON. This is actually similar to that inline policy. If I click on S3, I'm just adding one just for list bucket. List bucket and list all my bucket. I'm selecting, and also I'm using this for all the resource, giving star. Okay, okay, giving next. The policy name I need to provide. I'm just giving S3 list as a policy name. I have created a policy. If you want to see that, I can see it here. S3 list. Now the policy is present. If you open this one, like you can see the same JSON what we added, which is available here. Okay. Then two step is completed. We have created a user as application 1, created the policy as S3 list. I am going to create a group. For that, I need to select user groups. Here I am creating a group. Same thing. I am creating a group as app1. So I am just creating group in this step. App1 only creating. I am not adding any of the policy or users into it. I am clicking on create user group. Group is created. Now I'm going to configure. I'm going to map user as well as policy to that. Here I can add users. I'm adding application 1. Then if I select permission, I can add permission, attach policy. Here I can give is3 list. I'm selecting that, attach the policy. Now the policy which is attached to the group, and the group I added this user. The user is one of the application. Okay. Now we have group, and group have attached to the permission. Since this user is present in the group, the user will use the same permission. Okay. Then now the last step is like we need to create access key. Okay. So we have created user. We have created a user. Now this user, with this user we need to access the resource, right? For that we need access key, which is nothing but I have application hosted somewhere else. Okay. This application needs to access AWS resource. Okay. So the AWS resource of which one I need to access? I want to access S3. I want to list what are all S3 buckets available. I need permission for this. So I have added a permission. So I need some identity, right? For that we have created identity called application 1. Application 1, its name present in AWS, but we can't use the same username outside, right? For that we need access key. I'm just going to create access key. If I click on user, I'm clicking on application 1. Now there is an option called create access key. If I click that, there are a lot of the use case which we are seeing. Why do we need access key? AWS is asking. I probably, if I tell that, like I'm going to use it for CLI. CLI meaning that like if I have AWS CLI or Cloud Shell or something, no. If I want to access a resource, I need access key. If I tell that, then AWS will give you the recommendation that we are using AWS CLI. You can use AWS Cloud Shell or V2 to enable authorization. So it will give you a temporary authorization. So every time when you log in, it will log in and generate your temporary token. You can use that. Why do you need a permanent token? It is asking. Okay, I don't. I'm not going to use it for third party service, right? If I click on third party service, now also it will give recommend to use IAM role instead of this one. Okay, so we'll see what is IAM role later, but understand the option to access the resource, right? The IAM use is also one option, no? So we need to understand how to create an access key. I'm clicking other and next. I'm clicking on create access key. Now if you see, this is my access key, and if I click show, this is my secret access key. With this access key and secret access key, I am able to access the AWS resource. Okay, so as application 1, outside of AWS, if I want to access S3 bucket, then I need to use this access key and secret key to access the S3 bucket. We will see in a later, in some other session, we will see how to uh, connect AWS resource as application from outside world using this access key and secret key. I'm just downloading the CSV file. Now we understood how the IAM user is helping application to access the resource. Okay, for that we have followed these steps. The first step is we have created a user, we created a policy, we have created a group, and we mapped everything together. Application. Finally, the application to access the user, right? We need access key and secret key. How to generate access key and secret key also we have seen. Hope we are clear. Now we are going to look another option. So now we have that access key, right? Like access key and secret key as a permanent one. If you use that and if you configure somewhere, and if someone else is taking that, right, they will also hit the access. So AWS is recommending to use IAM role instead of access key. Even if you host the application in AWS or if you host application in third party service, both the case you can use IAM role to access the AWS resource. We will see what is IAM role. So basically IAM role is the permission which is attached to the service. Okay, so we are not attaching the permissions to the user. Instead we are attaching the permission to the service directly. So the service is directly accesses AWS resource without any access key and secret key. That is what IAM role. We'll see what is that. So for that is also under IAM, identity access management only. If I click on roles, right, we can create role. Already there is a default roles are available. If you want to create a new role, click on create role. Then there are different options available. AWS service, if you want to use it for AWS service, you can use it. If you want to allow entities of other AWS account, that for that we need to select this one. If it is for federation or web identity, we can select this one. I am selecting now for the demo, like I am selecting AWS service. So what I am going to do is like consider I have EC2 service. EC2 service is nothing but a server where I am hosting my application. Okay, so I'm keeping a EC2 server and I'm hosting my application. So for this EC2 server needs to access my AWS resource. For that I am creating IAM role. Okay, this is my use case. Okay, we will see what is EC2 lambda in the next sessions, but as of now, for the example, like understand what is EC2. EC2 is a server where I am hosting my application. So I am selecting EC2. So if I select this one, allows EC2 instance to call AWS service on your behalf. There are many options. I am selecting the first one and clicking on next. Next, now I need to give up permission policies, right? Previously we already have a policy added, right? Now my thing is I want to the from application which is hosted in EC2 wants to access S3. Okay, for that I already have a policy called S3 list which we have created just before. I'm going to use the policy. I'm selecting that and give next. I'm keeping a role name as app1 EC2 S3. Okay, which is using this policy, and this is the permission. I'm creating a role. Okay, now this is the role which we have created. Using this role, the application will directly access S3, which is one of the AWS resource, without any access or secret key. Okay, this is the advantage of using IAM role. One more thing which I need to cover as part of this one. So whenever we are creating users, right, there is options to add MFA. So if you click on security credential, there is an option to assign MFA device. See, this is nothing but a multi-factor authentication. So if you are adding multi-factor authenticator, there are many options. You can give a passkey or secret key, or if you're selecting authenticator app like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, there are there, right? Using that, like we can actually configure, or you can use a hardware TOTP. There UP key kind of, there are some hardwares also available. Using that we can do multi-factor authentication. So whatever, right, like when you create a user, this multi-factor authentication is essential and required. Like you can disable that for demo purpose, like I didn't add that, but this is actually required for any IAM user creation, or like if you are creating some user in identity center, right, essential to add MFI so that it will be super safe to use. Okay, however, we have covered how the physical users can access the AWS resource using IAM Identity Center, and how the application can access the AWS resource using IAM's user, as well as without access key and secret key, how the applications will access directly the AWS resource using IAM role. So hope you understood everything clear. Thanks for watching.